Well, it's a spectacular and beautiful day in what I call Babyland. And the baby has just gone down for a nap, giving me a couple minutes to, well, I'm sitting in the house checking email while I wait to make sure that he's really down. And, well, hi everyone. Day 2 of 3 days in Babyland. And I have just a couple of thoughts, so I'll let you guys enjoy the sunny view. Here we go. So, one of the things that has been, one of the things that's been very strangely human. I have this saying, or I just say, humans on Earth. I know a lot of people who, what's the point of getting frustrated by humans? Honestly, people, what's the point? Humans are frustrating. And it's sort of like if you get upset that the dandelions, there we go, we got dandelions blooming in the lawn, and every spring you got upset. Well, most people would tell you that dandelions bloom, and rather than get upset, just, figure out how you want to deal with it and respond to it. Well, humans are like dandelions, or as Shrek would say, ogres are like onions. Layers. So years ago, when I was trying to cope with living in a house with an adult man who was consistently frustrated by human nature and really sort of tormented by the daily reminders by humans that humans are human, and it just kept bothering him. And, I observed that and I thought to myself, well, I don't want to be bothered by humans. So I accepted humans. And that doesn't, when you use the word accept, it doesn't mean that you are deciding that everything that humans do is okay. No, I accepted humans for what they are. They're human. Honeybees are honeybees. And if you step on them, they're going to sting you. This doesn't mean that you hate honeybees. It means that you want to avoid stepping on them. So, one of the human nature things that has been going on that I've been particularly aware of for the past 30 years relates to vaccine medicine. And I have literally spent 30 years deeply, deeply invested in this issue on all sorts of levels, which is why I'll be starting that paid subscriber series. It'll run through, they'll start the second week of May and run through, I think, the first week of August or so. The scope of the vaccine medicine debate, first of all, vaccine medicine, I don't hear anybody else use that term. My friend Karen and I came up with that idea about 14 years ago now when we started writing a series for the local newspaper on Vashon Island called Community Conversations. You can still find those articles. I think we did 18 months of them. And I'll include a link down in the text section if you want to go and review those. So, vaccine medicine was our attempt to take away that thing that humans do where they get polarized on an issue, and the language like, are you pro-life, right? People who want to protect access to abortion procedures in the United States of America are not pro-death. They are pro-something. And part of what they are supportive of does actually incorporate life, believe it or not. And that would probably relate to either quality of life or some women who, around the world, for example, in other countries like Ireland and whatnot, where they won't allow the removal of an unborn child that has died in utero. And because of that, you end up with women who are like 8 months pregnant and the baby dies in utero, and then the mom ends up dying of like sepsis because it's so hard for the doctors to be able to actually provide treatment to the mother. But the word pro-life, even though they're actually pro-life, which is beautiful, that language is still being used in a way to sort of cause humans to be in a state of discord. And there's also virtue signaling, and there's various forms of propaganda / manipulation or persuasion that's going on in language. So we chose the term vaccine medicine because that word medicine hasn't yet been claimed by any of the groups involved in the debates around vaccine for children and adults. And so we were trying to diffuse the immediate knee-jerk reaction that many people have been trained to have. It's really interesting that you can tell whether a person has been groomed to have a fierce opinion on, let's say, the vaccine medicine topic, if you bring it up and they immediately open their mouth and start saying out loud a bunch of very familiar talking points. And if they do that without actually asking you any questions or listening to what you're saying, and they're not actively listening, then it becomes really obvious that they're in a groomed state of mind. One thing that happens when you're blessed to be a homemaker, blessed to have a flexible schedule, packed, full, very complicated and busy, but still more flexible than if you have to leave your house at 6 a.m. because you have to be at the office by 7:45. You have to be at your desk at 8 o'clock. You have 8 hours under the control of completely different people, not your family, not yourself, but your boss and the corporation. Then you're done. You commute for an hour and a half in traffic and you get home. And then you've got, a spare 3 hours before you have to go to bed and get up and repeat it. That sacrifice, that commitment, that work that is done by the adult human in the family who goes out into the world and works for strangers to bring home a paycheck, that doesn't have much flexibility embedded into it. So homemakers work extremely hard and they're flexible, and to a degree. And so I was able to take my spare time when I could find it and participate in 30 years of exploring the issues around vaccine medicine. So down below there's a link, and it's to an article that is sort of announcing a current event where Robert Kennedy Jr. has just come out and said some things out loud in mainstream media that haven't been said for a while. And I think the title really is sort of the point, is that with science, what do we have? Science is really one singular thing, and it's really the scientific method. We should probably stop using the word science by itself as a label and instead say, what have we learned by employing the scientific method on a particular topic? Because the scientific method is one which prevents the human errors that are currently serving as stumbling blocks and concrete wrapped around our feet, and basically the human nature side where errors can occur and we can become attached to belief systems and resistant to cold, hard truth. That resistance to cold, hard truth, that's not coming from a proper application of the scientific method. That's the antithesis of the scientific method. That is the religiosity that has surrounded this now concept of science, which people will call it sciencism, right? We're witnessing religious thinking within the cohort of humans who believe, they use that word themselves, they believe in science. That term belief has no proper place in the world of the scientific method. The scientific method is where you set your beliefs aside and you simply go out and go through the steps of evaluation, analysis, testing, hypothesis, exploration, results, and there you don't bring a belief with you because it's a constant quest to find answers to questions, not to prove what you want to be true is true. So I think it's really so beautiful that we have some humans who are still challenging the belief system that science is starting to morph into, because those people are saying, no, we need to bring forth the scientific method and utilize that method of evaluation in order to find the truth, whether we like it or not, whether it is what we hoped for or not. Get the hope out of the way, seek truth, because that's where empowerment comes from. And once we have true, accurate information at the moment, knowing it might be proven wrong in the future, but right now it's the best we can come up with, then we say, oh, now we can deal with what is in front of us. If someone tells you that you've got $5 million in the bank and you believe them and you go out and you buy a couple of cars and you get a bunch of fancy clothes, and then the next day the bank calls you and says that, oh, you wrote a bunch of checks and now they all bounced and the car company wants the car back, and you already wore the clothes, so you can't return them. Suddenly you're suffering because you lived your life based upon inaccurate information, and now you're in trouble. Not like people are mad at you even, but just you mess things up. But if when you went to the bank and said, how much money do I have? They said, oh, you've only got $523. Well, maybe you're sad because you got a $300 bill you have to pay, you need to buy groceries, and you wanted to get a new dress for going to your sister's wedding. So you're sad because maybe you don't have enough money to do what you want to do. But it's better to say, oh, well, guess what? Now that I know this, maybe I can take a babysitting job. Maybe I can, ask my other sister if she has a dress I can borrow. And at the end of grappling with your reality, you're going to end up in a better place because you acted upon true information, not false information. And that is the purpose of the scientific method and the best way forward for humanity. We're still going to mess things up, but we'll mess it up not as badly as we would if we're living in an imaginary fantasy land while walking around on the concrete, mundane, real world. So, I am going to go back to Babyland now. Pretty sure the baby's asleep. I'm going to head into the backyard where the other kids are playing. And I hope you guys have a beautiful day wherever you are, whatever your weather is like. And I'll see you soon. Bye.